And what do you propose to do?
I'll organize revolt. Exact a death for a death. And I'll never rest until every Saxon in this shire can stand up, free men, and strike a blow for Richard and England.
Have you finished?
I'm only just beginning. From this night on, I use every means in my power to fight you.
Dickon!
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new era of podcasting for the Not Content Podcast. My name is Jerome Cuson. We'll explain this new era thing in just a moment. We are entering a brand new month. It is the right match. We will not only be discussing Andre the Giant and Big John Studd from Wrestlemania 1, but we will be discussing the adventures of Robin Hood in the first of 4 Robin Hood conversations that we will have here in the month of Marian May? ? My co-host, of course, is Brian. Brian, I know you are very excited for our discussion of Robin Hood, but we need to address the elephant in the room, Brian. We can no longer record on Skype, so this is our first podcast not on Skype, and we are recording over Zoom.
Yeah, new era. And Microsoft, get your shit together, because somehow Jerome was somehow able to call still on Skype, even though it was like a dead technology on May 1st. And I was getting the call, but I couldn't interface with it because they removed the interface from Skype. So I'm hearing this call on my laptop thinking, like, how do I connect if Skype's dead? So we went through this whole ordeal for 20 minutes, and we realized, well, technology sucks. We're old, and we just got to learn to adjust. Because Bill Gates loves messing with people and doing updates and just kind of like Xing one thing out when you're used to something like Skype. And now, what are we on? Zoom. Doing the old meet and greet thing.
We're on Zoom, yes.
Yes, the old meet and greets from the pandemic days that has kind of lasted over. But man, it's fine.
Did any company benefit more from the pandemic than Zoom? I can't think of one, because Zoom is pretty much the standard for electronic communication now, in terms of like what we do with like video.
It took a pandemic to figure that out, but you know,
I mean, Zoom is the backup. I mean, it's better than Teams for sure.
Yeah,
I mean, I hate Microsoft Teams with a fiery passion, even before what we went through last night. There is a very good reason that we are not on Microsoft Teams, and we will probably be on Zoom for the foreseeable future.
Yeah. Because at least we found the record button and the mute button, which is all we really need. But somehow we couldn't figure it out yesterday with the new technology. So
we couldn't figure it out on Microsoft Teams. I don't even know if they have a record button. If it was there, we couldn't find it. Anyway, Brian, we want people to leave a 4 or 5 star review so as to help people discover this show here as part of the From the Q Podcasting Network. We also want people to subscribe on YouTube and to click the bell icon for notifications on our episodes. So we are going to be discussing, as we mentioned, Robin Hood. Let's discuss Andre the Giant and Big John Studd first, because this was your selection, and clearly you're a sadist, because this match is not very good.
No, it is not, and Andre doesn't even leave his feet. But in terms of like a comparable thread to both the Adventures of Robin Hood and this, Adventures of Robin Hood features a archery contest, so to speak, and in this case we have a body slam contest, right? And at the end, Andre tried to throw the money out to the common folk, and we know it's the common folk because it's Wrestlemania 1, and those New Yorkers are like middle class New Yorkers, not like rich WWE fans that go to the shows now and pay $400 for like medium size or medium seats or whatever. But yeah, he was trying to throw it to the front row. Bobby Heenan comes out, takes the money back. So if you want to kind of interpret it, I guess Big John Studd is a Little John, or not Little John. I guess the King's brother, and then I guess Bobby Heenan is like Sir Guy, or maybe Sheriff of Nottingham. And then just takes the money and run. But it's very much that idea that Bobby Heenan is the upper class. Andre the Giant represents the working class, the middle class.
I mean, they always said Bobby Heenan was from Beverly Hills, so
that's the point. And if you watch the pre-show, not the pre-show, but the interview before the match, they really settle like they're, Big John Studd and Bobby Heenan are so above like the working middle class. They just kind of like look down upon them, and that was the kind of whole point of that interview. And then I love how they kind of stuff money in the bag for the $15,000, so to speak, when it's probably just filled with like, I don't know, tissue paper, and the top layer is filled with like dollar bills or something. But it was fun because if you're looking back at the history between Big John Studd and Andre the Giant, we know that Andre the Giant just was a bully, right? And he just did not like Big John Studd. And if you watch this match, John Studd got nothing in. And this is the first WrestleMania. And this is a big deal in terms of like one of the biggest shows of all time. And yet this dude gets nothing in on Andre other than a few punches. And then Andre just kind of sandbags him in the middle of the ring with a bear hug. And that's like half the match. So it's not necessarily a good wrestling match.
WrestleMania 1 is primitive in terms of production, announcing, in-ring action. I mean, it feels like it's a million years ago. And if you go watch WrestleMania 2 immediately after WrestleMania 1, you will see an enormous difference in terms of quality. And to be clear, the real WrestleMania 1, just like with James Bond, the real WrestleMania 1 is WrestleMania 3. But in terms of like considering, just how important the show was, I mean, if you think about it, Brian, just remember the fact that the World Wrestling Federation, they were TBS on Saturday night. How messed up is that? That in the 1 year period that the WWF was on TBS, it was during this time just about coming to an end, but they got to promote WrestleMania 1, Hulk Hogan and Mr. T in WTBS studios with Gorilla Monsoon.
Black Saturday is what they call it, and that's when Georgia Championship Wrestling kind of sold their stock to Vince McMahon, and the way they did that was Ole was the minor shareholder. The Briscoes were the majority shareholders, and because of that, McMahon was able to buy his way in, took over the territory, closed the territory, took the time slot, and because of the outrage of the Southern wrestling folk on the TBS network, they demanded a change.
Alleged.
Yeah, alleged. But they demanded a change. McMahon sold the rights back to Crockett for $1 million and took that $1 million and invested it into, I guess, hiring more celebrities for the main event of WrestleMania. Because basically, if you look at the main event of WrestleMania, there are so many celebrities that come out before the main event that $1 million had to have paid for Liberace, had to have paid for Muhammad Ali, the manager of the Yankees, all that stuff. But that's kind of the background history of WrestleMania that people don't really know about. But I guess Dark Side of the Ring and all these different documentaries on YouTube have tried to put that to light, that McMahon actually had $1 million from Jim Crockett invested into his own WWF WrestleMania show, which is kind of a shocking thing for people to hear, but it's the truth. But in terms of this match, there are still some connections to Robin Hood. So we know that Andre the Giant, of course, was in Princess Bride, co-starring with what's his name? Cary Hughes.
Cary Elwes. Who, of course, was in Robin Hood, Men in Tights.
Exactly. Doing the Earl Flynn gimmick, because I guess he was casted based on his Earl Flynn gimmick in Princess Bride. So there is that connection to Andre the Giant loosely. And, of course, I think, the idea that we got Big John Studd and we got Little John. And, of course, whoever ever plays Little John has to be a big dude, which is, a kind of a carrying theme throughout all the Robin Hood movies. So that's kind of the connection I got there.
Little John is basically in the Disney animated Baloo. It's Baloo who is Little John.
I know, which is kind of crazy, but technically they're two separate characters, but it's really the same, kind of voice actor and everything. But I think in terms of that, that's kind of the connection we have. We could have did that Robin Hood connected match with the Giant and Hogan that Jerome suggested, which I guess they played during the commercials to up the ratings for Robin.
Yeah, it was quite the gimmick, and it pissed a lot of people off, and they of course never did it again. And I guess, of course, the match ended in a disqualification. I mean, our options were quite limited for this month given the theme. It'll be a little bit easier.
But the idea of giving to the poor, stealing from the rich, you kind of see that what Andre was going for before Bobby Heenan came in and took the money back, but. Do you want to talk about how Bobby Heenan made $900,000 off Andre the Giant really quick?
Oh, it's really great. Ted DiBiase bought the rights to Andre the Giant for $100,000, right, and then sold it to Bobby Heenan for $1 million. So Bobby Heenan profited $900,000. That's why he's the brain.
Isn't that
why he's
great?
afraid.
1988 was so good in terms of the storylines of the WWF, I think, and just the little details like that, because all of a sudden, throughout the whole summer, he's with DiBiase, and then they do the switch back in September, and they go their separate ways. But I think that was an iconic moment in '88 when they teamed up, the Mega Bucks. So on to the movie now, where this is 1938, and Technicolor is in its infancy or whatever, but we just had Wizard of Oz come out the years before this, and I think
No, Wizard of
somehow
Oz is after. Wizard of Oz is after. This is
okay,
before.
I keep getting this wrong, but yeah, I just think that this is brighter than Wizard of Oz in my opinion. I don't know how they do the reds and the greens in this because they just pop so
I think it depends on
incredible.
which. I think it depends on which version. I mean, I have no opinion either way, but you definitely feel the Technicolor in this movie in a big way, just like I think you do in Wizard of Oz. I don't know that one is necessarily brighter than the other. I'm sure it depends on what version you're watching and whatnot, but I mean, it's still very vivid. It's still this movie feels 10 to 15 years ahead of its time in terms of the color and the technical execution. This is a really well directed movie. This was directed. There are two listed directors: Michael Curtiz, who of course is probably best known for Casablanca, uh, William Keighley, who has kind of a journeyman career. Like he's clearly done a lot of Warner Brothers stuff. In looking at his filmography, he's kind of a that guy director. Like there's nothing super famous. This is probably his biggest movie. And I'm going to speculate that, in terms of like just what he's known for, he's probably best known for what he did in World War II at this point, given his lack of notable other movies. But Michael Curtiz, I mean, just in terms of his career, like he directed Errol Flynn in Captain Blood, which is a movie that I really need to see at some point because it seems like it's going to be really good. You got Angels with Dirty Faces, Casablanca, Yankee Doodle Dandy, White Christmas. So Michael Curtiz is a pretty important director in the history of Hollywood, and just in terms of the execution of this movie, he is a really this is a really important movie for him, I would say, just because it's very different than Casablanca, but you really see kind of what he's able to do, both with the romantic elements, but also the fact that he's clearly very good at directing action as well. The action in this movie, again, not does it hold up to 2025 standards? No, but in 1938, this looks really impressive.
So we kind of have to like lay it down here where they're using real arrows, at least mostly real arrows. But what they were doing is they were just heavily padding every actor that was in the way of the shot and just having professional archers just kind of shoot the arrows. But man, I mean, it's all real. Like if you do this now, obviously they did the 2010 version. And I think another version came out after that, but it's all like digital arrows and stuff. But in this case, it's real. Like every arrow is like real, and every sword obviously is not real, but it's like there's actual actors on the screen. Like there's no CGI, obviously, in 1937, 1938. So it's a bunch of just people on set, and I just love that when I see so many actual extras on set doing their thing, and just all in costume, just all being there on camera, and it's just such a refreshing thing because, of course, today it's like you take like a cast of 10 people, scan them digitally, add a bunch of like CGI extras, and then you have 100 people. But in this case, they really needed like 100 people on set most of the time because there was just so many, like a cast of characters and all the background actors and all the swordsmen and stuff. But I think also credit to the editing. This movie did win the Oscar for best editing. The editor is Ralph Dawson. He won 3 Academy Awards for editing. But I think the crucial thing about this is like when there's the sword fight, he's increasing the frame rate by at least, I don't know, a couple frames just to speed up the action. So it looks like they're really professional swordsmen. But it's obviously choreographed, but when you speed up the frame like that, it just really like hides a lot of like the slowness to it. So it really made Errol Flynn and Basil Rathbone really look like legit swordsmen, even though of course they're not. But I mean, the editing really helps, and of course, I think the pacing is unbelievable because whenever this movie tries to slow down for the drama, it just feels like the scene's over, but you got the drama, and then it just keeps going to another like adventure scene, and it just never kind of lets up. And this movie's an hour and 40 minutes. And you would think for an hour and 40 minutes, like there'd be some slowdown, but it just feels like this movie just goes by so fast. And I
It's
think it's
really well
again
paced, and there are
really
some
well
movies.
paced.
There are some movies even in the 40s that I think movies that are 2 hours in the 40s I think can sometimes feel interminable, even the good ones. But hour and 40 minutes is perfect, and I mean it's just very tight, like very straightforward, and just the way that it builds is really impressive. And I give all the credit to Michael Curtiz and the production. You know, Warner Brothers was a like there's a reason that they're one of the most legendary studios out there because they were able to create these like working class type movies. And you know, they're probably best known for Gangster Pictures with Humphrey Bogart and um name has just totally escaped me right now. James something. What is it?
James Stewart, James Cagney,
Jimmy
yeah,
Cagney. Yeah, I
Jimmy
mean
Cagney.
James Cagney is one of those guys that is legendary. Michael Curtiz directed him a number of times, and he's really good with leading men, especially Errol Flynn. I don't, I certainly don't want to dwell on Errol Flynn's personal life. I will just say Google Errol Flynn and learn as much as you feel comfortable learning. He's a genuinely terrible person. So any compliments that I pay to him for his performance in this movie is not reflective of who he is as a person. But I mean, you can see why he's a star. You can see based on his looks, how charming he is, how charismatic he is. Like he is the perfect baby face to Claude Rains' heel, right?
Oh, definitely. It's like God, what's the guy's name from Twisters? He's that new actor, Glenn Powell. He has
Glenn
that
Powell.
Glenn Powell kind of
Yes.
like
Yeah.
face. If you kind of see it, it's like this Hollywood face that's like either he's gonna be the leading man or he's gonna be like this asshole charming guy. And either one of the two is going to do well. And I think that's what Errol Flynn does well. And in this case, he's very much like he's antagonizing the not the king, but his brother who's taken over the throne, played by Claude Rains. But I just feel like he's not. I mean, I think people think he's a communist when he's really a socialist. When I think there's a big difference with that. And I think socialism kind of comes from the people, where the feels like communism kind of comes from the government. In this case, he's really like a socialist, and everyone around him that he's like inspired is like also on the same bandwagon, which is kind of like mind blowing, but it's also like inspiring in terms of that notion of like being a socialist. But he's really like trying to like get back at the people that kind of turned away from the King Richard. So it makes a lot of sense. He's loyal, and then when King Richard shows up, he shows his true colors to the king without knowing he's the king. So I think that's a great scene in the third act. But yeah, I think Earl Flynn, he's parodied so much. Like this performance is parodied so much that it's become so iconic, and people don't even realize that like this version of Robin Hood that people kind of always see parodied don't even know at this point that it's Errol Flynn from the original 38 version.
I mean, the 1973 version essentially parodies it. The 1993 version, that's obviously a direct parody. I mean, it's clearly an homage to the Errol Flynn performance. Obviously, Kevin Costner is not going for the same vibe, but I mean, we're going to be talking about this performance at least two more times because clearly both Disney and Mel Brooks took a lot from it in terms of their own interpretations, and the reason is that it's because it's perfect. I mean, it is exactly what you want from this character, and I don't think you're ever going to get something better. And we've certainly seen a number of Robin Hood performances that have faltered. Probably because Robin Hood is in the public domain. You don't really have to pay for the rights, so a lot of studios have taken a crack at trying to bring back the character. We've seen, the TV version in the late '90s. We saw Taron Egerton play the role. We saw the Russell Crowe version, and none of them have been successful. And I think it's because not only is this movie really, really good, but just I don't think that Hollywood knows how to tell this story anymore because the Robin Hood story is literally a poor person taking from the rich and giving to other poor people. And I don't know that Hollywood has the temerity to tell that story properly, but also maintain the humor because this movie, which could be very heavy is very light on its feet, and I think that's a good thing. It's just very entertaining. I could see how an audience that is still in the midst of the depression would really like this movie, and that's why it was extremely successful at the time, not only in terms of box office, but also winning a couple of Academy Awards.
Totally, and I think that tone really is the big difference between something like Prince of Thieves in '91 and all the later interpretations, because it gets so serious in the later ones. It felt like once the Mel Brooks version came out, that's like, oh, we got to do a serious version. We can't do like any light comedy or any kind of comedy version of Robin Hood now because it's been done and no one can top that. That's kind of what it feels like, because everything got so serious after that with the Robin Hood interpretations after that. But I think this is the key to do it, is like it's got to be lighthearted. It can't be too serious, can't be too dark, it can't be gory, it can't be like a Game of Thrones. Like it's not that serious. It's more about an uplifting kind of story, you know what I'm saying? So I think at the heart of it, this version gets that the most out of all the versions I've seen. Because even the music kind of reflects that, even though there's some dark times in the like in some scenes where like you see some like King's guards come in and just like terrorizing the people, trying to tax them and take whatever they want. The music doesn't go like really dark like a Game of Thrones scene would do. It still has these lighter kind of tones that kind of show you that there's some kind of light at the end of the tunnel, because we know like Robin Hood's going to come in and save the day. So the music reflects that. And the first time I did watch this movie was in a music and film class, where they kind of taught it's where like everyone has an individual theme and how themes work in movies. And this was like the prime example to kind of show the class for the first time. And it just stuck with me. So not only is this movie like a teachable movie in a lot of like, you know, college film classes, but like it's actually taught in like music classes for film, because again, like it just hits everything right. Everyone has their own theme, you know, and all the themes play at the correct moments, and then it has the right tone. And just kind of everything with the music, I think, in this movie just really like elevates it even more. It feels like it matches the colors and the pacing, which sounds kind of strange, but if you kind of have that harmony between all these different elements of the film going, then it becomes like something more, which is why we praise it so much. But I also want to, you know, shout out to Claude Rains for being, you know, one of my all-time favorite old school actors. He's tremendous as this and as Prince John. You know, he's an evil son of a bitch, and I like how he doesn't really get physical, because that's the character doesn't really get physical at all. He's obviously royalty that he's using other people against, you know, for his will and everything and trying to take the throne. But he's an evil son of a bitch. And what I noticed later on in the movies too, in the Robin Hood movies, is that there's this transition. Like it goes from like Sir Guy is kind of like the bad guy in this one, and less the Sheriff of Nottingham, but they kind of switches up where the Sheriff of Nottingham becomes more of the player or the primary antagonist for Prince John. So you know, there's some changes in the story that could go on throughout history too. Have you noticed that?
Yes, I think that anytime you get this a story told over so many times that it's just it feels like it's bound to happen. You mentioned Claude Rains, and I was just kind of looking at his filmography, and I mean, you just look at it, and it's just in 1938 he does Adventures of Robin Hood. 1939 he's doing Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. 1942 it's Casablanca. Notorious. Like, he is in all these really notable movies. I mean, literally the two of his last three movies, he is in Lawrence of Arabia, and his last movie is the greatest story ever told. That is a pretty phenomenal kind of ending to one's career, and it is wild to me that he never won an Academy Award.
It's just, I don't know. He's not the leading man. I mean, he's a leading man in terms of like,
I mean, he
being
was
the
nominated
antagonist.
4 times. He was nominated 4 times for supporting.
Yeah,
Mr.
that's the
Smith,
thing.
Casablanca, Mr. Skevington, and Notorious. So, I mean, he got nominated 4 times in 7 years, and then was otherwise unnominated. And I don't know, man. It feels like he should have won at least one of those.
I know, and he wasn't nominated for Invisible Man, but I love his performance in Invisible Man. Like, he really gets that character of like unhinged, unlimited, potential, being invisible, doing whatever you want. He really gets that. But I think it's just because, being typecasted as like the antagonist in a lot of these movies, the stars usually get the nominations, right? And so you're going to end up with the best supporting, and that's even more of a tougher category, because usually those are like your character actors that are really incredible. So it was a tough category, I think, back in the day. Not so much now. There's less character actors in the supporting roles. There's a lot of more major actors doing supporting roles now, but that's kind of where he was kind of like pegged in. But if he did, even if he was nominated for this movie, it would have been Best Supporting Actor, because that's kind of the way he was positioned. But he's still incredible in everything he does, and he just kind of like whatever the makeup is, whatever the accent is, he takes over that role and becomes the role, and that's what you're supposed to do as a great character actor. And he's one of the best ever to do it. And
he is able to play evil in such a way where he is evil, but you want to watch him still on the screen. And I think
Christoph Waltz has that effect too. I think he's like the modern almost version of Claude Rains.
I mean, I think Christoph Waltz has done it a couple times, but I mean, even he hasn't had the career. I mean, Claude Rains had a long run, and I don't know that Christoph Waltz has kind of matched that. I think part of the problem is he tried to become a lead actor, and that just didn't work. And I think he also got stuck playing kind of the same role over and over again. Whereas Claude Rains, yes, he was evil in most movies, but he was playing different kinds of evil. Like his character in Casablanca is very different than this character here. Like in Casablanca, like he's just very corrupt, and in this movie he's like more megalomaniac, and those are very, very different ways of playing evil.
For sure. And there's some other great performances too. Like I like Herbert Munden as much. Even just something about his dirt. Like a lot of those background actors that Robin Hood kind of rounds up, they're just so like dirty, and it feels like they're real people from that era that were experiencing that plight, and they just kind of have that look and feel on their face. And I love that kind of casting. I think the casting is really well done in terms of his crew.
Again, this is what Warner Brothers was known for. They were known for being kind of the more working class studio. That's why they were so popular with the working class. And they have certainly lost that in recent years, but like this is why they have the reputation that they do, and why James Cagney and Humphrey Bogart, like they're not classically beautiful men, but like they had careers because of Warner Brothers.
For sure. And this idea and trope that me and Jerome kind of love when we watch like superhero movies of team ups. For some reason, whenever there's a first time team up, like they got to fight each other to kind of test each other out. And this goes back to the Avengers, the new Avengers that just came out, like all these different team up movies of superheroes, right? So what happens here? Spoiler alert. So Little John is, he's known in the famous scene where he's like guarding this like creek or whatever, and you got to get past them, pay the toll. That's exactly what you get in an Avengers movie type thing, where it's like we got to test each other, they're going to fight each other, and then they're going to laugh about it afterward because they're buddies now. And that's exactly what happens in this movie, and they use it in like all the different versions of Robin Hood as well.
It's a well done scene too. Like it's like the action is fast, it's very well paced. Again, you would not think that a movie in 1938 would be able to execute something like this, but it still looks pretty damn good.
And not only that, Robin loses the fight, and he does it with humble, like, appreciation. Like, you beat me, sir. Do you want to come and join me and join the fight against Prince John? And I thought that was like a great moment, because it shows you that like this idea of we got to test each other out before we become teammates. It's reflected throughout like comic movies throughout the years now. So, and we laugh about that, like when of course in Avengers 1, like Thor fought with Captain America, and Captain America fought with Iron Man until they realized on the ship, like, we got to work together. So this is exactly what happens. And it happens more than one time in this film. He has a little one-on-one with Friar Tuck. But other than, like, it's still, like, it's great because he's testing out their will, and they're all willing and committed to the cause. So I love that part of it. And I guess, since it is May Marian month or whatever, we should talk about her, Olivia de Havilland.
Some ways, yeah. She'll be really foxy next week, that's for sure.
Oh, that's for sure. But she really learns her lesson, man, because at first she's like the most unlikable rich bitch, borderline Karen, and it takes...
Which is really interesting, because the version of her that we are going to see in the next three it's going to be very different next week and the week after.
Yeah, I noticed that too. It's like she literally has this change inside of her when she has like dinner with all the the merry men and Robin Hood at that feast or whatever, and she starts realizing that maybe I'm in the wrong, and it takes her like a whole day to figure it out. But I love that little like at first like she is so unlikable. Like she blames like all the poor people's problems on themselves or whatever, and she's like disgusted by like the common folk of Nottingham or Sherwood. It's just ridiculous that her attitude is like so snotty, and then it just changes because she starts like experiencing life with the actual people. You know what I'm saying? So that was a good scene that always kind of shows you that like change can't happen. Maybe it just takes a day of like hanging out with regular folk, but she was
Wait, so
definitely
you're
played the
telling me
character
that
of.
white women are happy to use the patriarchy to get what they want?
Um, yeah, it's 1938 and nothing's changed, right? What's that message we're always saying on this?
It's all, no, this is your line. It's The View. Something about The View.
The view never changes, Dad. The view never changes. So
It really doesn't. Like it, you really watch this movie and you realize that the same issues are literally happening right now, and you could have. We really do need a Robin Hood at this point.
I mean, if you look at the end, they try to do a January 6th. If you think about it,
Well,
because
they do a reverse January 6th.
because Prince John basically is like he knows that his brother's still alive, and if he like takes the throne, it'll start this war. But he knows that he's got the upper hand because he'll have the soldiers. But the actual King Richard shows up and stops him, and then Prince John's like, "Oh my God, I thought you were dead, brother." He's like, "Shut the fuck up! You were trying to take the throne,
Shame
you
that
asshole."
nobody did he have the high ground or no?
Huh?
The high ground?
Oh, he did have the high ground until King Richard showed up. I felt if they were to go to war, I think there'd be a new king, to be honest. But luckily, the real king showed up in time, and Robin Hood saved the day.
This movie is almost perfect. Like I'm at a 9 out of 10. I think this movie is phenomenal. I think it's one of the best. It's the best interpretation of this character. And like I there are parts of the next 3 weeks that I'm going to enjoy, but nothing's going to top this. I mean, this is just like they literally the first time they did this, they got it perfect, and nothing is ever going to top it. Honestly, the Bugs Bunny cartoon where Daffy and Porky are Robin Hood, that might be the second best version of this story. I haven't watched it in a while, but that may very well be true. But I mean, this honestly, this movie is great. I mean, it's perfect at 1 hour and 40 minutes. It's got a lot of really great action for 1938. I am so tremendously impressed by what I
Yeah,
saw.
it's a nine and it's like a 9.5 for me actually. It's like really high on my list. Like I know I watched it in like freshman year of college, and usually the movies you watch when you're a kid are the ones that stick the most with you. But this has really stuck with me because of like the whole visual experience and the music and everything. So I think this is definitely a standout for me, and I'm glad I watched it at the right time. 18 years old, freshman year of college, man, that was like the right time to watch it for me. So very much recommend this movie. I guess you can recommend WrestleMania 1 as a whole to check out, but if you kind of watch that Body Slam challenge, it kind
No,
of
WrestleMania
reflects.
one is not worth watching. It's really bad, actually.
Look, if you're not a David San Martino fan, I get it, but at least Jesse Ventura is making fun of the guy on commentary during the match. If you notice that, he's kind of
I mean,
subtly making shots at the
this
guy.
is like Jesse is not in full Jesse mode at this point. It's one of the few times he buries him, but God, I mean, just it's such a bad show. I mean, the main event is like 2.5 stars, and it's the best match on the show by a wide margin because for some reason they didn't have Tito and Greg in the garden, which was always strange to me. The tag title match is pointless. The women's match is like it's clearly just meant to put Cindy Lauper over. It's just it's not a great show. But Robin Hood, The Adventures of Robin Hood is great, and we will be talking about a very foxy version next week.
Yes, the Disney version from 1970. What is it? It's 70 something.
1973.
73. And
I
it's
don't think it's the best version, but it is a phenomenal movie because it's the one Disney movie where a priest physically beats up a cop.
Yeah, it's something else, man. And I love this anthropomorphic look of all the characters. You mentioned that Baloo's kind of like reused
They
as Little
rip off
John.
a lot of the Jungle Book animation for this movie, which is
Yeah, I was
fine.
about to say too. You'll notice, folks, that there's a lot of similar dancing because they reused some of the same cells to save money. But at the same time, it's like I think this plot is very refreshing because we're so used to like a humanized version of Robin Hood, but seeing a fox do it, it just changes the game. And I think this movie like stands the test of time, despite coming from an era of Disney where it's not necessarily the best of times, right? Like I think people were kind of like down on Disney in the '70s.
It's the '70s is a weird time to be Disney because they're losing a lot of the old animators. Some of the newer animators are starting to come through. you get the big split. Ben and I kind of talked about this when we did our Disney podcasts last year, but this is like borderline end of era type stuff. This is like your WrestleMania six. This is like WrestleMania 17 or 18 in some ways, maybe more WrestleMania 18, I guess, because it's kind of like a weird best of version of previous movies and animators and directors and kind of coming back together for a couple more shots of glory.
For sure, and I think it's also the same snake as Jungle Book too. I have to confirm that, but it feels like it's always been the same snake in the two movies.
It could absolutely be that.
For sure, but that kind of wraps up this week's discussion. We got 3 more Robin Hoods coming up later this month for, I guess we're calling it Marian month for now, unless we come up with something better in the next 60 minutes.
I mean, the problem is it's just too easy because her name is Marian, and it's the month of May. We're not going to do Justin Timberlake. We're not going to review all of his movies, so this is what we got.
Yeah, but at least this is more entertaining for sure than that movie about stealing time. There you go. But thank you for listening. We'll talk to you again soon.